name's Thomas Havlin. I started working with my father back 38 years of age now. I started working with my father back after secondary school, 19 years of age, probably full time then. And worked with my father for quite a few years. And then 6 years ago, my father and I decided to go Seabound Engineering, which was born 2016. 2014 it was born. Since that we have, I suppose we've kind of changed ourselves a wee bit from more of just the services of the local fishing community to actual supply of gear, different style gear, winches, net drums, refits, different styles for various different types of boats, from Irish fleets to Scottish fleets, European fleets, all over the Irish coast, European coast. So that's the foundation of my background anyway, so as it stands today. So I suppose back when my father was doing his business, steel was the main structure for any kind of net drums, winches, shelter decks. I suppose through times with safety features in the fishing industry, stability in boats become a big issue, where weight could be a big issue. The fishing industry become more aware of stability issues, become more aware of safety, one thing and another. So quite maybe a few years back, I kind of identified as aluminium. A good aluminium product would be every bit of the lifespan of mild steel with a third of the weight. I suppose then I kind of trained myself a wee bit more into working with aluminium, diversifying the aluminium, and now as it stands today, 95% of our product is aluminium. So that's where a lot of fishing boats there now are working on the verge of stability books with incline tests, different parts, where we offer a product such as, let's say a net drum system in the back of a standard vessel with 4 nets. 4 nets, 4 drums could be in the upwards of 5 to 6 ton on the highest point of the boat for them to haul gear, shoot gear, where we've now changed the design of that for replacing all with aluminium, taken from 6 ton down to the average of 2.5 ton with the same carrying capacity and the same power. So it's a market now for me. I suppose it's worked out quite well, and 6 years of Seabound Engineering we've produced from 2.5 metre drums, which would be 10 to 15 ton, right down to 3 ton, maybe 2 or 3 foot flanges between the flanges. They all vary. As it stands today, I've taken an order on accident today for my 140th net drum in the last 6 years. So that's where I found if we could specialise ourselves in one particular point, which would be aluminium, then we found the market, and we suppose we've excelled on it, haven't we? So. The first drum I done would have been for a local fisherman here who would own one of the pelagic fishing vessels in Kellybegs, Brendan Gill. I suppose I was only a young fella. I think I might have still been in Cairn School at the time. Brendan had a IP21 pleasure boat. He was doing a bit of angling with, and we got to chatting one time and we talked about he would love to set up a small rig, a small trawl rig for a bit of crack, something when they weren't pelagic fishing in the summertime, they were home and they would do a wee bit of angling. So that was the first real aluminium job I done. Was built a set of small aluminium winches, lightweight, strong, and small gantry, towing points and net drum. And that was my first. I would imagine that was probably it must be coming now about 10 or 12 years ago. It was the first one, the first time we scripted onto that market. I kind of really got serious, I suppose, when we went Seabound Engineering in 2014. I had a couple of friends up in Isle of Skye in Scotland there. A particular fellow that I would have known from years moved down to Donegal, and we got to talking one day, to and fro. He had a system that he bought off Spencer Carter in the UK. I suppose at that time he had a breakdown, he needed a replacement motors. Sourcing motors at that time was 10 to 12 weeks. A day in a fishing community is a major loss. So me and him put our heads together, and I says, you know what, I think I could design and build a set of net drums to suit you. We can possibly have them done within a few 3 to 4 weeks. So we went ahead and we designed it, we built them. He brought the boat to Scotland, we fitted them. And he went back to Scotland on the Thursday, and on the Tuesday I had an order for 12 more drums. So we kind of excelled from that, you know what I mean? People seen the product, alright, it was fresh on the market, maybe it hadn't the time done that other products had, but when it got back to Scotland, men seen how light it was, seen how strong it was. Then I suppose we spent 3 years then supplying Scotland with various styles of net drums, large and small. So, well, networking for me back then, I mean, I'm always a person that always thought every day is a learning day. So if you took the experience of somebody that's been in the business or different types of business, so I suppose back then I spoke to different people about ways of kind of pinpointing the market. Some of the advice that I got was, well, a fisherman sitting on a wheelhouse of a boat all day does nothing but scroll Facebook. So what we done is we opened up a Facebook page in Seabound Engineering, done a little bit of advertising. We've done this, we've done that, we've done the other. It all leads to phone calls. Somebody talks to somebody, somebody talks to somebody. And kind of went on from that, you know. I suppose that's word of mouth and a bit of advertising on Facebook, which kind of got us to where we are today, if you like, you know. But the fishing community talk and talk a lot, like, so the word of mouth kind of spread for me, you know. I've always been kind of the kind of boy that would, I would probably maybe start at something and not stop till I had it kind of figured out the way that I wanted it for me, the way it should work for me. I suppose the aluminium back then, as I say, mild steel would have been the main product that would have been used in the fishing industry, prime steel, painted, one thing or another. I started to find myself thinking, you know, aluminium could be a good product. So I spent a bit of time and I learned it myself. I figured out the pros and cons. I figured out how to work with it, how to weld it, how to fabricate it. The nature of aluminium is very different to mild steel and very, very many different products. But I suppose through time myself I've picked it up and I've learned the pros and cons of it, and I've made a living from it now, as if you want to say it that way, like, you know. I did do my time in Springtown to get my welding certificates, but I suppose the aluminium, it just came from working with it, learned the nature of it. Through time then, I suppose the first machine that we had would have been 1996, would have been a MIG welder Migtronic. It was a very good machine back then. As regards working with aluminium, it was very time consuming, the consumables would have been quite sore. Through time now, the last new machine that we bought there would have been probably the most state-of-art machine for the job, which takes, I suppose, the labour end out of it, changes then, it makes us more, how would you say, it makes us more, it makes us, well, kind of, you want to call it specialist in the industry of aluminium, if you like, you know, and then it makes us very competitive then too with the other markets, like, so we pride ourselves on quite a strong product. I know back at the start you could have said it was quite time consuming, but we've really changed the lead on that, so we're knocking out a large set of net drums now from start to finish in 3 weeks. Where originally a large set of net drums you could be talking 6 to 8 weeks. So it all helps my price too, and it all helps the customer too. If he's happy, I'm happy. The word of mouth lets me on to the next job. So, see, I'm 38 years of age, I have 3 young sons. I'm married a local girl from Aville, and we've bought a home just up behind me, up the bottom of Cook's Hill. I see great potential in it, showing, I suppose, northerly point of Ireland. Like, we have a deep water berth if ever a stage coming that the new pier would be developed. I just see potential, and I believe in the area. I believe in Inishowen, I believe in Donegal. My business, there's a few other businesses, I suppose, not maybe I wouldn't be as big a scale as Kelly Biggs, but they're helpful, they're competitive, it's a nice tight lit area, you know, Donegal. I believe in it, it's my home, that's where I want to be, it's where I want to raise my children, and please God I can run a good business out of it, a successful business out of it, a future for them, you know. That's the long and short of not leaving this area. As a young man, I suppose I worked in different places, I had opportunities to go different places, but home's home, you know. I grew up in Greencastle as a young child. We fished pots, we pulled salmon nets, we had, the sea was our lives, you know, so I remember whenever we got married, I said to my wife, please God we could afford to build a house in Greencastle or buy a house in Greencastle, because beside the sea's where I'm from, and it's in my blood. Regarding the fishing industry, I know, as I say, I'm only a young man, it's had its troubles, it has its problems with quotas and Europe and one thing and another, but I still believe that there's a future to be made here. As I say, it's a small community too, the fishing industry, but the fishing industry isn't really the men that's on the deck of the boats, it's us. It's the people that make a living from the fishing industry. The shops, the net factories, the various, there's far more spun off from fishing, I think, than people realise. If they were to take a count and count the men on the deck of boats, and they're very foolish for that. I have 4 people working here. The way forward for me now, like I talked to you about my father and me starting up 2016 or 2014, Seabound Engineering. My father's just recently retired, so I've taken on the business myself. I've plans now for a few more men coming to work for me. I've taken on a few more bigger jobs outside. of a couple of jobs in Scotland coming off next year. As I say, there's no reason why a local man couldn't do the work that's been done out of Donegal or in Killybegs or Howth or wherever the case may be. So I believe this is our wee corner, and I'm going to make a stance on it, and hopefully it works out for me.